Hey VIPs, Stephanie from Mrs. D's Corner. I know it's Friday night and I'm coming to you what is going on. I wanted to share with you the resource that I posted last night, the IEP Meeting Toolkit. I wanted to share all of the pieces with you and kind of explain it and share with you where it came from and how it came to life. But first, if you are new to Mrs. D's Corner, Mrs. D's VIPs, my name is Stephanie. I am the teacher behind Mrs. D's Corner. And I have taught everything from inclusion to resource to teaching in a charter school to teaching self-contained to teaching in a public school in first grade through, kindergarten through 12th grade. So in like 4 or 5 different states, I've lost count at this point. So I've really kind of touched on everything. And I'm working on another project, which I can't tell you about yet. I'm so excited about it. Just know that it has to do with IEPs. And I was going through all of my old files and I found all of these documents that I had created over the years about just scheduling an IEP meeting or getting organized for the IEP meeting and doing all of these things. And yes, in some of the schools that I've worked in, some of these things were provided by like the IEP writer online, but some of these schools, they didn't have these resources and I had to come up with them on my own. So I had this idea to just take everything that I've created over the last 9-10 years and just make an IEP toolkit that y'all can use. And it is completely editable. I always want to say edible, but that's not right because you don't eat it. Editable. And you can change the wording, you can change the formatting, you can change every single piece of every part of this. There's also the PDF that you can print, and it just has the fill in the blanks, and you can just fill in the blanks if you want to print and go. I'm going to show you the printable part. So any part where you see a blank is something where you would put in a kid's name or a date or something like that, and you can fill all of that in the editable version. So I'm going to show it to you from start to finish. In the file, I've outlined, it's kind of in order of how you would use it. So I'm going to go through it in that fashion. And I also printed it on pretty colored paper, but you don't have to do that. I did find though that I worked at the high school level and I was managing all of these files of all the kids that I was working with. It really helped when I had like parent questionnaires and teacher questionnaires if I printed them on different colors of paper. That way when I had to pull out a file out of my filing cabinet, I knew, okay, so the blue paper is the parent paper and the green paper is from the teachers and the pink paper is from the nurse. So I do recommend printing some of these on colored paper if you're going to be using them with all of your students. It just makes it so much easier and faster to find in your files than just printing it all on white because all of that just blends together in a file folder. But I have printed, and I did give a guide. I'm pretty sure I gave a guide in the directions. Maybe. If not, ask me for it and I'll share my color guide with you. Okay, so let's get started. So the first theme is the IEP Meeting Calendar. Now this one actually looks very similar to something that is in the IEP binder. And it's just, this is completely editable for you. So this one is used more, for tracking your students' IEP dates. When are they due? Is it triannual? Do they have testing? Is it just an annual? Do you have to have a meeting by this date? This is a one-stop shop for all of the meetings that you have to have. This one here is more of a, when do I have to have this meeting by? So like I said, I've taught in so many different states and they all do things differently. So some states you have to have it, so many days before the actual IEP due date. In other states you have to have it this other amount of time before the due date, or you have to have it on the exact due date. Or what if the parent, all these different scenarios. So this piece of paper here helps you keep track of when the exact time is that you have to have this IEP meeting by so you can stay in compliance. So you have that and you have this. These are both for you. The next piece here is your IEP scheduling log. This is for keeping track of when you've tried to contact parents. So the student's name, when their IEP is due, the dates of the letters sent. So I know, like when I worked in Texas, the LSSP took care of all of this and I didn't have to schedule anything. But in every other school that I've worked in, I ran the IEP meetings. So that was a big change for me. I'm so used to scheduling my own IEP meetings and running them myself. I needed a place to be able to say, okay, well, I sent a letter this date, didn't hear anything back. I sent a letter this date, still haven't heard anything back. Also, any dates that I've called, the meeting date that we set, the draft due date of the IEP, when I sent the draft home to the parents, when the IEP was finalized, and the date that I gave everything out to the teachers. So this keeps it all in one place for all of your students. Or if you have more than this many students, God bless you, I've been there. But you can make multiples of this. And you can change what's in the headers too, if you wanted to. The next thing is the IEP checklist. So this helps you keep track of before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. And I've kind of, over the years, added to this because, like I said, so many states do things so differently. But you can just check it off. You can take things off, add things on, depending on your school district. It really makes sure that you are getting everything handled that needs to be handled in the IEP meeting. Then we go into, make sure that's just one piece, the parent questionnaire. One question I get a lot is, what do you send home to parents before the IEP meeting so that they can give you their input? And I love getting parent input because I think it's so important. We see their children, our students, for a huge chunk of the day, but they have them the rest of the day. They know their child best. So it's always great to ask for their input. What do they want to see in the IEP? What do they want to work on? So it's always great to ask, and it's a great rapport builder with parents to always ask them. You can send this home. Now this I took and from 12 different things I've made over the years and put it all in one. What do you hope your child will accomplish? What are your child's strengths and weaknesses? Circle anything that you think is a top priority to work on for next year. What IEP goal recommendations do you have? What skills do you want your kid to work on? And any additional concerns. So it's really simple, but it covers a lot of information. The next question that I always get is, what do you do for regular ed teachers? How do you get their input? And this ended up being 2 pages. So I would recommend printing it front to back. My printer at home does not print front back, or I don't know how it does it. So I would print this front back, and it has just at the top, I'm the case manager, we need to work together, yada, 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 all of that stuff. And then they can fill this out, fill all this in, and then there's also spaces on the back for them to put their input. They can put as little information or as much information as possible, but you sending it is great rapport for you. The next thing that comes, so you've scheduled your meeting, or you're working on scheduling your meeting, you have your calendars laid out, you're getting parent input, you're getting teacher input. Now it comes to sending a letter home for parents. So a lot of the IEP writer systems and the IEP Plus systems, those are 2 that I've used, they auto send, they auto populate for you once you put in the dates on the draft. And all you have to do is print them. I didn't always have that. At the charter schools, it was something that we had to, had a Word document and had to fill in the dates and things like that ourselves. So I provided 3 different options for you in this one. Or in this resource. So in this resource, this is a half page. And I do recommend putting these on colorful paper so that parents see them in child's backpacks. Keeping them the same color every time. If you have kids year after year, you can be like, okay, well, it's the yellow paper. It got sent home 2 days ago. Look for it. That's your child's meeting. So you can ask them when they think or when is best for them to have the meeting. They can give their preferences. You can edit this one and give them 3 different times and ask them which one is best, or have them suggest a date. And then this one here it's a half sheet again to inform parents that, okay, this is the date of your child's meeting. This is when we're meeting. Here's when we're meeting. We'll see you then. And it asks them, bring anything you think would be necessary or beneficial for your student. So now we've scheduled the meeting. We're in the meeting. These are some other things that, actually, I was kidding. We're not in the meeting yet. These are out of order in my meeting thing. These are reminders for parents and reminders for gen ed teachers. I would cut this up, put it in a mailbox, or go deliver it to the desk. I would put this on color paper for the teacher, and also this for the parent. I like to keep the colors close, so I did pink and red. But they are 3 to a sheet, and I think that's 6. Yep, 6. And you can edit all of these and make them bigger if you wanted to. So now it's time for the meeting. Ground rules in an IEP meeting are always important. Some of the IEP meetings I've had at different schools, we were allowed to have food, so we would bring snacks. Other schools, we weren't allowed to have food, so we wouldn't bring snacks. Always make sure there's pens on the table, just those kind of little things to make everyone comfortable. Make sure there's tissues. Always make sure there's tissues. You never know. Happy tears, sad tears, all the tears. Make sure there's tissues. But IEP ground rules for the meeting. I give you a sample list here, but you can print this and use it as well for ground rules for your meeting. Then there are 2 separate IEP meeting agendas, one for an annual IEP meeting and one for initial IEP meeting. They don't differ too much, but just enough to where I felt it was necessary to provide both of those for you. One of the posters that is in one of my blog posts by Carrie Cecilia Clark at Speech and Language Kids that y'all have seen, I'm sure, before, if not from an image that I have made. I've put this in here for you in poster format with her name here if you wanted to go check out more stuff by her. You can post this on the wall. You can read this during the meeting or just have it on the table and give it to the parent as well so that they know you're on their side. There is also an IEP Notes format for you. Now, in some schools that I worked in, there was somebody who was the note taker and they just took notes like in a Word document or on an iPad. And then in other schools, the LSSP would take all of the notes and it would go directly into the IEP. So systems are very different. This note is mostly for you. So what I wanted most specifically is when I'm in a meeting and there are things for me to do, I need to be able to write them down. Like I have to have a notebook and I have to write them down. I am not a send me an email. I am not a remind me. I am in it. I need it on a piece of paper and you need to tell me exactly what I need to do. So this note format does that. So it has everybody who's in attendance. You can check off who is here. Meeting notes. So I would just put like the basics here. And then at the bottom, what are the next steps? You can add more boxes if you need, but usually 3 is sufficient. So what are the next steps that we need to take? Do I need to update the goals? Do I need to check in with the speech path? Do I need to check in with outside services? Do I need to call the ABA therapist? These are here. This is what I need to do. So who do I need to call to make this happen? And by when? When does it need done? So this is more for me to keep track of what do I need to do to help the parents or help this child succeed. So this is more of a note sheet for you, but if you need an official note sheet, I'm backwards for me. If you need more of an official note sheet, this is fantastic for adding into your IEP folders. The last thing I'm adding in was something that I just thought of when I was putting all of this together. Whenever we work with our parents, right, we have to give them our contact information. And usually we give it to them at the beginning of the year. And sometimes it gets lost, or sometimes they lose it, or maybe they get a new phone and whatever, things happen. So I wanted to be able to have small little contact cards where I could just cut one out and staple it to the front of this child's IEP. I want them to be able to look and say, okay, so Stephanie is my child's case manager. Her role is the case manager. Here's her email. Here's her phone number for school. And here's the times that she's available. If I ever have any questions, or if that parent ever has any questions, they have all of my information stapled, and it's so small. Like it's the size of a business card, stapled to the front of their child's IEP. Or you can even paperclip it. It doesn't have to be as serious as stapling it. But I wanted them to be able to have something where they could contact me. And I think it's important too, not just giving them a way to contact you, even though they probably already have that information. It shows initiative on your side that you are here to work with them. And if they don't call you within like a week after the IEP, I would even say like 48 hours, like school hours, not weekend hours. If they haven't called you and contacted you about anything, I would call them and just be like, hey, I know we had our IEP meeting. I was just checking to make sure that everything was still good, even if they agreed with it and everything was great in the meeting. No disagreements. They agreed. They're like, yes, perfect. Call them and just say, I just wanted to check on you and see how you were doing after the IEP meeting. If there was anything that came up after, check on the parents, guys. They go through so much. They need our help. And by doing these just little things, you are building that trust and that rapport with that parent that is so important. So I truly tried to build those things that will help you build rapport with your parents into this toolkit as well for the IEP meeting. So I really did my best to include everything that you would need to get you from planning for the year out of what IEP meetings you have coming up, when's due what, and who and where, and all of that stuff, to actually scheduling out the meeting with letters you can send home, reminders you can send home, questionnaires you can send home to parents and teachers, as well as agendas and things that you'll need during the IEP meeting. So I really hope that it's as inclusive as I'm envisioning it to be. I really think that it is. But if at any time ever, as with anything, if you think that something else needs added, please let me know. I would love to just make this super inclusive for everyone. And you can find this IEP toolkit. It is linked above. I am working on a blog post for it, so I will also share that here in the VIP Facebook group afterwards, like once that's done and I finish it. But I really wanted to get on and share this with you guys because I'm super passionate about it. I have done all these things for so many years and it's just sitting on a USB, and I wanted to get it to you guys to help you guys. So if you have any questions ever about anything, please reach out. I'm going to sign off now. It is Friday night. I hope that you are relaxing. I hope you have a fantastic weekend and that you get to recharge and really just enjoy, hopefully, this cooler weather and it's not raining. I know, like, in Texas, it's supposed to be raining, right? So I hope that you guys have a fantastic weekend. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.